And a very happy Columbus Day to you at 12:07 in the West. It's the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang's on the road.
Johnny, there's always something really interesting that happens when one of us is on vacation. That's when the really big news drops. About a year and a half ago, you were on vacation when OJ died. About a year ago, I was on vacation when Shang Tao's house got raided by the FBI. And last week, you were on vacation when the whole world got to know who Katie Porter really is.
Get out of my shop.
How in the world does that happen? These vacations are scheduled like a year in advance. And every single time I schedule a vacation, I miss the gold.
Not only that, we had the news about the suspect in the Palisades fire. It was a huge week, and all of it was filled with people responding to Katie Porter and that disastrous interview she had with Julie Watts on CBS Sacramento, the interview that we helped elevate to international fame.
Well, to those voters. Okay, so you...
I don't want to keep doing this. I'm going to call it. Okay. Thank you.
You're not going to do the interview with us?
Nope, not like this. I'm not. Not with 7 follow-ups to every single question you ask.
I've got to say, Randy, I am unbelievably jealous of you. Because whenever I'm gone, you get the gold. Whenever you're gone, yes, I did get Shang Tao and her home being raided by the FBI. But I also get the horrible stories that you have to do that you can't have any fun with. Whenever you go on vacation, that's when something horrible happens to a bus full of special ed kids, and then the phone lines go down.
Yeah, somehow I miss out on those.
Yeah, but you got Katie Porter, and let me tell you, even though I was in the middle of the ocean, my phone lit up like Nagasaki. Everyone I know was sending me text messages and emails and Facebook messages and tweets. And everything except for a carrier pigeon, people were letting me know that our Katie Porter had become national news. And I saw that interview that you played first on this program, and I thought to myself, where the hell has everyone on planet Earth been? Anyone who listens to this show knows that's how that woman is. There is nothing new. There is nothing breaking about this woman's personality. Anyone who even casually listens to this program knows this is what we're dealing with her. And I've got to tell you, I now think, despite the fact that she was leading in all the polls, I now think that Katie Porter has lost this race for governor. I don't think it's going to happen.
You know what's funny is Alex Michelson, for a report on CNN about this, he started interviewing a whole bunch of people in Los Angeles, and so many of them had never even heard of Katie Porter until now.
Well, they should be listening to this show. Now, I know California is a big blue state. I know we're a one-party state. But I think even for Democrats, Katie Porter is now one bridge too far. Because let me tell you, this is a state where people move here from all over the globe. People come to make it big in Hollywood. People come for a better life from other countries. People come to strike it rich in Silicon Valley. And despite the fact that they consistently vote for Democratic candidates, Katie Porter may have found a way to offend them. Because let me tell you, if Californians were willing to put up with a big, loud woman in a house dress hurling profane insults at them on a daily basis, they would have never left their hometowns. Because you could marry that in Iowa. You don't have to pay the rents of Orange County. And I don't know what Katie Porter was thinking when she called off that interview. Because I think at a certain point, because she was looking off to the side, I don't know if that was at one of her aides or that was at one of her kids or whomever it was that she was looking at, but she thought it was going to be a viral moment that benefited her. that she was taking the news to task and they were getting out of line with her and she was going to put them in their place. Well, apparently she hasn't ever seen the movie Throw Mama Off the Train. Because let me tell you, there's a reason that lady didn't make it to her final destination. So maybe Katie better get Netflix. And what's with all of this BS from people who support her saying that the criticism that you're seeing on social media and radio and cable news and everywhere else is based on discrimination? Discrimination. She's white, she's from Iowa, and she went to Harvard. Unless the B in LGBT counts for bipolar, she has nothing. But she's claiming to be the victim of discrimination. And you know what else I was thinking, Randy, as I was looking at all of the fallout of this interview? How vindicated do you think the ex-husband feels right now?
The one that got the mashed potatoes poured on him?
Oh, yeah. I'm sure this is the only thing he wants to talk about to all the nurses and the other patients in the bird ward.
Did you see? People are having a lot of fun by taking that video of Julie Watts and Katie Porter and running it through the AI filters. And someone even sent us a video where Katie Porter's sitting across from Julie Watts and then throws mashed potatoes at her.
Oh, you know Katie Porter wanted to hit her. You could see it in her eyes. Physical violence is her first go-to. You could see the self-restraint. From her point of view, she was restrained in that interview because she didn't slam dunk the potatoes on the woman's head.
She did get all mafioso about it, though.
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you. And I don't want this all on camera.
What the hell is that supposed to mean? She going to put a horse's head in the woman's bed? Well, I'll tell you. I haven't seen any new polls since this interview dropped, but I cannot imagine that she is going to remain the front runner long. And I assume that this means that more candidates are going to jump in, whether it's Rick Caruso, Alex Padilla, or others. There is now blood in the water.
Half the story that Alex did over the weekend on CNN was about the fact that with this blow to Katie Porter, it's very likely now Padilla is getting in this thing because this race looks up for grabs.
Well, and if Austin Butner is jumping in the race for LA mayor, that is an indication that Rick Caruso is taking a pass on that race because there's not enough room in that race for two rich white guys.
What's Austin Butner's plan here? Hey, I'm the guy that folded to Cecily Meyer Cruz and kept the schools closed.
Yeah, that's not a resume I would brag about. But Katie Porter is in a world of hurt right now, and I don't know what she does. If it was a one-off, if it was just her having a bad day, I guess you could come out and say, look, I didn't sleep well that night. I was on a cross-country flight. I was a little punchy, and it's totally out of character for me. But for Katie Porter, this is not out of character. This is about as on brand as it gets.
Well, and then you look what immediately happened. The interview, which, by the way, is from a month ago, but Julie Watts posted that portion of the interview last Tuesday. On Wednesday, that's when the former staffer leaks a video of her out to Politico.
Get out of my shot.
Or as the Queen would say,
get out of my shot.
And you know that there's going to be more and more incidents like that coming out because Katie Porter has not done an interview since then, but what she has done is put out the same statement she had when she was running for senator. And there were all these stories about her being mean to her staffers saying, I hold my staffers to a high standard.
I think that meltdown that the staffer leaked, I think that happened at the house in Irvine that we're all paying for.
Oh, yeah.
That house needs a remodel, by the way. And I also didn't see any exercise bike in the kitchen.
Wait, are you alleging that that exercise bike was only in the kitchen for Eitan Wallace to see when he did that profile of her for Fox 40?
I would love to know who came up with that idea. So, Katie, here's what we're going to do. Because the weight issue is something that is top of mind for voters, if we just strategically place an exercise bike in the middle of your kitchen, people are going to think that you're a modern day Susan Powder. So why don't we just roll that baby in there and you can just tell them that you're sitting on the Peloton while you're frying bacon. Whoever was dumb enough to come up with that idea is still smarter than Katie Porter for delivering that line on television.
I'm me.
I got so
I'll
many
tell you.
props to her last week.
Oh, it was nonstop gold. It was like a CNBC ticker of gold.
I don't care.
Now, I think it's over for her. I don't think she's going to be the next governor of California. I don't think she could win her congressional seat back if she ran. It might be time for her to self-deport and join Rosie O'Donnell, too.
I'm running for governor because I'm a leader.
Maybe the two of them can represent Ireland in the Clausen pickleball doubles match at the next summer Olympics. But there is no future for her in California politics. None.
Now, do you think she just stays silent on this as she's done for the past 6 days? Or does she try to do something to resurrect this campaign?
I think she stays in because what you saw in that video is basically the behavior that you get from every liberal white woman on planet Earth. So from her point of view, this wasn't anything out of line. This is just how they are. Her problem is the Democratic coalition is much bigger than just liberal white women. You have to get black voters on board. You have to get Latinos on board. You have to get young people on board. And I'd like for you to identify one of those groups that looked at that video and thought, yeah, that's a leader.
Well, that's one of the funny things that happened this week is this video comes out. The subsequent video comes out. I think there was even another one that came out. And every one of her opponents obviously is jumping all over this. Antonio Villaraigosa booked 3 minutes of ad time in the Sacramento market and just played that video and then said, I'm Antonio Villaraigosa. I support this message. Betty Yee straight up called for her to drop out. But even outside of the people running against her, there is not one person in elected office in the state of California or that served with her in Congress that is out there defending her, not even Robert Garcia.
No, they all hate her because this is what you get. And if this is how she behaves on camera, imagine for 1 second how she behaves when she's not on camera. Because that's the one they get. They all hate her, and they've hated her from day one. The reason that they put up with her was because she beat a Republican and won a seat for the Democrats that used to belong to the other side. And they thought because she had the ability to raise gobs of money that she was the only one who could hold that seat. Well, she moved on, ran for Senate and lost, and another Democrat held that seat. So now there's nothing that they have, nothing that she can provide that is worth it to them to put up with this. At one point, she had them behind the 8 ball, but those days are gone. So right now, she is totally exposed, and they're all standing in line to stick the knife in.
Absolutely.
What's interesting to me is that she hasn't done an interview since then, has she?
She has not. And again, this interview was from a month ago. And every question that was asked her was also asked of all the other candidates, even the ones you've never heard of.
And for what it's worth, it's a totally legitimate question. The question was, what are you going to do to appeal to people who voted for Donald Trump, who make up approximately 40% of voters in California? And her attitude was, I don't need them. anyone who voted against Donald Trump is going to vote for me. But that's not necessarily the case. Think about these two possibilities, for example. One is that two Democrats make the runoff. If it's her versus Antonio Villaraigosa, or her versus Alex Padilla, or her versus Javier Baccaria in November, one of them is going to try to win Republican votes because there is no Republican in the race at that point. So having a strategy on how you appeal to Republicans might be what puts you over the top. You see this happen all the time in mayoral races, where, for example, when Willie Brown ran for mayor of San Francisco, he ran against another Democrat, Tom Amiano. And Willie cut deals with the Republicans so that the Republicans would vote for him because they still make up 25% of the electorate in San Francisco. You would be a fool not to have a plan on how to win Republican votes as a Democrat. The other possibility is this. There are states, blue states, states that vote for the Democrat for president that have Republican governors. We saw this in Massachusetts with Charlie Baker. You saw this in Maine with LePage. You saw this happen in Vermont. Vermont had a Republican governor for a long time. Maryland had a Republican governor for a long time, Larry Hogan. There are people who vote for the Democrat for president who then vote for the Republican for a state office because the issues are different. So just because California voted for Kamala Harris for president doesn't necessarily mean that every single person who voted for Kamala Harris will vote for the Democratic candidate for governor and vice versa, because there will be different issues in this race than were debated in the presidential race. So it's a legitimate question that for whatever reason she didn't want to answer, and then oh boy did she snap.
I don't care.
And now she's dealing with the fallout. Have I mentioned I'm glad to be back?
I'm me.
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you were hosting solo last week. If you missed one of those episodes and you want to go back and find out what you missed out on, that's easy to do.
Like, let's say you want to see all the stuff we've been talking about when it comes to Katie Porter.
I don't care.
Search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's the Apple Podcasts app,
I'm me.
the iHeartRadio app,
I'm running for governor because I'm a leader.
Spotify.
No!
Search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes. You can even find out what it sounds like when Katie Porter goes to Reseda.
No!
All right. One of the other big stories that broke while I was on vacation was that an arrest was made regarding just exactly who started the Palisades fire.
Kind of. They arrested somebody who allegedly started the fire on January 1st, which was put out but was smoldering underground and then became the Palisades fire a week later.
And when this arrest happened, the entity that made the announcement was not the local authorities. It was the feds. It was the Department of Justice and Bill Asaley, who is the U.S. Attorney for the Central District of California. Not long after it was revealed just exactly who was arrested, Newsom was tweeting about it, referring to the guy as a, quote, Florida man. But as is always the case with Newsom, that was a tell, and there's a whole lot more to the story.
We have an update on just exactly what this crazy guy was doing before he started that fire on January 1st. Here's a report from Fox 11 in Los Angeles.
Acting super crazy, and he was just ranting, going on rants about Trump and how he hated Trump so much and how he can't find a girlfriend. There's no good girls out here.
Oh, boy.
We thought that worst case scenario for Newsom and Bass would be if it was a homeless encampment that they should have busted up and didn't, and that's who started the fire. But if it's someone with Trump derangement syndrome that did it, that might be worse for them than a homeless encampment.
Well, don't forget the insult part of it, too.
Yeah, that's not attractive.
An unforgettable Uber ride with a man now accused of starting the Palisades fire. A passenger tells all in a story you'll see only on Fox 11. Welcome, everyone, to the Fox 11 News at 5 o'clock. I'm Marla Tejas here for Christine Devine. As federal authorities wait to extradite Jonathan Rinderknecht, we're hearing from a passenger dropped off by that suspect before he allegedly set a fire that later burned down Pacific Palisades. Our Christina Gonzalez is live with the story you'll see only on Fox 11 now. Christina?
Yeah, and just to give you an idea of how early investigators must have been looking at this suspect, they talked to this passenger and his girlfriend back in February. Now, back then, they didn't tell them what this was all about, so they had no idea until they saw the coverage this week. Take a look.
They're like, oh, no, I know that guy.
This is interesting. The authorities were onto this as far back as February.
I couldn't believe it.
I think the original interview that authorities had with this guy was somewhere around January 25th. And then he fled to Florida, and eventually they made these charges. But I don't know what was going on here, if there was just a lot of time it took to find a way to tie that fire to this fire, because it's a totally different thing if he's being busted for starting, which was a small fire intentionally on January 1st.
It'll be interesting to see if that was the hang up, or once they found out what the motivation was and who it was, they said, oh my God, we're not touching this one.
I couldn't believe it. I felt like I was witness in the middle of history on accident.
Brennan White showing me the receipt for an Uber ride with a driver named John on New Year's Eve, right before
Boy, your name just never has anything good come out of it.
Boy, if it weren't for the people who solicit prostitutes, unidentified dead bodies, and latrines, this guy had to add to the list.
Right before investigators believe Uber driver Jonathan Rinderknecht started a fire that eventually erupted into the Palisades fire.
We got an Uber ride, and it was late at night, and the Uber driver was acting super crazy.
That's why you got to go black. I don't care how much it costs. Go black.
I hope he didn't give him 5 stars.
He was going on, we weren't even really talking to him. He was just ranting, going on rants about Trump and how he hated Trump so much and how he can't find a girlfriend. There's no good girls out here. Really just mad at the world. Dropped us off, didn't think anything of it. And then on February 27th, I got a phone call. You know, fires had ended. I got a phone call from a detective, LAPD detective, and she just asked me about this Uber ride I had, a month prior. And a couple months prior, and I just remembered. I was like, oh my gosh, I remember that guy. He was a nut. He was a total nut job.
Now, here's another interesting wrinkle. Don't forget, it was the feds who made the arrest, but it was the local authorities, the LAPD, who initially figured it out.
When Rinderknecht's image popped up on the news last week, he says he recognized him as his Uber driver.
When I looked at his photo,
But Uber's just loving this PR.
Oh, great publicity.
When I looked at his photo that they had on the news.
If I was Waymo right now, I'd put out ad campaigns. Our robots will never set things on fire unless you push us too far.
Well, Lyft could do what Villaraigosa did and just play this news report and then just make an ad for Lyft at the end.
When I looked at his photo that they had on the news, I remember that long, gross hair. I remember that.
Yeah, he's a guy who looks like Medusa.
Gee, I wonder why the ladies weren't interested. Or the fellas.
I remember that long, gross. I remember that long, gross hair. I remember that hair and coming out just when he was driving us through the light.
Brennan happens to work at a Malibu bar near the PCH burn scene.
I work in Malibu, I have all these regulars in Malibu, and all their houses got burnt down. I lost half my regulars because their house got burnt down. It's crazy, full circle.
It hits you in many ways that you wouldn't even imagine.
Yes, and I can't wait to go to the bar tonight and tell them I have a connection to this. So
you're going to tell them to watch Fox 11 News.
Exactly. That's what we're going to do.
Had to get that plug in, didn't you, Christina?
I don't know if I do that, by the way. You're a bartender who relies on tips to make a living. and half of your customers had their homes burned down due to your insane Uber driver, and he can't wait to tell them, I know who burned down your house.
And a shout out.
Well, they might place some blame on that guy, but I bet you there's a lot of Malibu residents and Palisades residents that are still pissed about the fact that there was no water in the reservoir.
Hey, maybe if that guy drove drunk that night, the Palisades would still be here.
And a shout out to them if they are watching. Now, Uber earlier this week did issue a statement saying they are cooperating with authorities. As a matter of fact, in the complaint that I read, it pointed out that their GPS data of the suspect's phone is part of the investigation and critical at that because it points them right next to where the fire started.
Yeah, it was that GPS tracking that I guess they got from Uber that showed this guy went up to the hillside, started a fire, tried to call 911, couldn't get through for a while, then finally got through, then drove back. As he saw the fire trucks going towards the fire, he turned around to watch.
He sounds like a real winner across the board, doesn't he?
So Uber saying they are cooperating with that. In West LA, I'm Christina Gonzalez, live. Back to you guys in the studio.
So that's the latest that we know on Crazy Guy, the guy that when this press conference was put out on Wednesday, Bill Essayli putting out that he was apparently looking up images for months on ChatGPT of what it would look like for people to be running from a forest fire, which hope everyone understands now that they can track that. And was also watching French rap songs where the music video had images of things getting lit on fire. I don't know what the connection is there, but this guy had a screw loose.
Well, and it just shows you what a pathological liar Gavin Newsom is, who came out and said that the fire was a result of global warming. Well, as it turns out, no, it wasn't global warming. It was an arsonist, and it was an arsonist that was motivated by Trump derangement syndrome. And it was a guy who was working in Los Angeles as an Uber driver, and Newsom refers to him as a quote-unquote Florida man. It just goes to show you, you cannot believe a thing that comes out of this man's mouth. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Randy, the initial fire that they now believe turned into the Palisades fire, that happened on state land, correct?
That I haven't heard, because LAFD is the ones that say they put it out and they extinguished it. But there is a lot of land up there that some of it's state land, some of it is the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy. So that's definitely possible.
Well, it also leads to the question, if the fire wasn't extinguished properly, who dropped the ball?
That's a good question.
Because this guy's defense, not that I want to give him any pointers, is going to be he didn't start the Palisades fire. He started a different fire that wasn't as costly, that wasn't as deadly, and the fools in the government in California didn't extinguish it properly, but said that they did. That's what the defense is going to be.
I feel like there's going to be a lot more to this story in the days and weeks ahead.
He's going to put Newsom on trial. My guess is if you're Gavin Newsom or Karen Bass or anyone who has blood on their hands with this fire, you're going to do whatever it takes to make this guy cut a deal so there is no trial. Because if this guy's defense makes Newsom and company look like the Keystone Cops, or I guess the Keystone Firefighters, it's just going to be bad news cycle after bad news cycle after bad news cycle for them. And there's no way around it. And if you are someone who lost your home in the Palisades, and now you realize how it happened, the government incompetence is worse than you thought it was. Had they properly extinguished that fire, your house would still be here. And now they're making it impossible for you to rebuild. The state isn't forcing the insurance companies to hold up their end of the bargain. The insurance commissioner is traveling all over the globe, going from Tony location to Tony location. And now you know they're responsible for the whole damn thing because they couldn't extinguish the fire properly in the first place. I feel sorry for those people on so many different levels. Can you imagine what their blood pressure must look like right now? My blood pressure's shooting up just talking about it. 800-222-5222 if you want to weigh in on any of this. 1-800-222-5222. Let's go to the phones and welcome Klaus in Thousand Oaks. Klaus, welcome.
Hey, John. Hey, Randy. So I saw this tweet from Spencer Pratt this morning titled, "The Palisades fire never should have happened," and he attached a screenshot, which I suppose is from a current firefighter or formerly LA firefighter back during the early months, the early days of January. Here's the screenshot. I'll just need a minute to read this. Hey, I'm an LA City firefighter who was told to pick up hose on January 2nd in the Palisades. There was several hot spots, and it was definitely still smoldering. Tons of smoldering tree stumps still remained that needed to be dug out and water applied. I believe a hand crew needed to come in and mop up the whole area with water. I just wanted to let you know so you have the truth. I had a chief walk by me that day, and I showed him a hot spot. He said it was good enough, and we continued to pick all the hose up. I was using water that was draining out of the hose to put red-hot coals out. I couldn't believe we walked away from that burn scar the way it was. I have almost 23 years on, and I didn't feel the fire from the first was properly mopped up. Please keep this message private. We do fear retaliation as firefighters. Hopefully this truth gets out and has impact. End of quote. Jennifer Van Laar from, I think, Red State replied, "We need to see about getting these guys whistleblower protection outside the union because the union is so corrupt and receivership and will never protect them."
Well, this is part and parcel what we've seen resulting from this fire. We've seen various forms of government incompetence up close and personal, whether it was Karen Bass's liaison from the mayor's office to public safety being on administrative leave for calling in fake bomb threats, or the reservoir being out of water and the Department of Water and Power not telling the fire department that it was empty, no water in the system. When people were trying to get water out of the fire hydrants, they were empty. It was just example after example after example of these people dropping the ball. So the fact that they played fast and loose with a fire that wasn't fully put out because they wanted to move on and do other things doesn't surprise me one bit. That is the story here. The story is the city of Los Angeles, the county of Los Angeles, the state of California cannot do their job. And whenever you see these people on television, they're not usually talking about local subjects. They're talking about Donald Trump. They're talking about immigration. They're talking about abortion. They're talking about Gaza. They're talking about all of these subjects that don't have anything to do with anything regarding state and local government. And Rome literally burns while they do it. They don't have any interest in any of these subjects. So if they do a bad job at delivering those services, none of us should be surprised. And as voters, there's some blame that goes around to us too, not to me because I didn't vote for any of these people, but to those of you who did, you voted for them based on how much they hate Donald Trump. You voted for them based on their position on abortion or immigration. Why are you surprised when it turns out they can't put a fire out? They can't make sure there's water in the reservoir. They can't make sure there's water in the fire hydrants. Why is that surprising to anyone? They didn't run on their ability to run a local government. They ran on how much they hate the guy in the White House. Well, sometimes you get what you vote for. And in this particular case, you elected a bunch of people who have Trump derangement syndrome, just like the electorate. But what you didn't end up with is a government that knows how to deliver basic services. They fell on their face, and the Palisades burned because of it. We already had a bunch of examples before this arrest, and now this, I guess, is just the cherry on top of the sundae.